This is another great question we get. What does a property manager actually do? Better get comfortable for this one. Ask a property manager what they do, and they'll probably tell you the question phrased differently. What doesn't a property manager do? So people think property management's just sitting back, having people pay their rents, collect their rents. That's just like saying a surgeon's job is just to cut someone open and just leave them there and the rest will sort itself out. But let me break down what we do here at Space Property Agency. In a typical day, we might inspect a property. I mean, remember our core areas are Surry Hills, Darlinghurst, Paddington, Potts Point, Elizabeth Bay, Woolloomooloo, Rushcutters Bay. They're our core areas. So typically older buildings need a lot more attention. They need a lot more knowledge because they do have nuances, and nuances sometimes don't translate well to people who don't have the understanding that with an old building you've got to treat its problems differently to what you would perhaps with a newer construction. But getting back to a typical day, we could be dealing with a lease renewal. There could be, for example, we had a urgent repair in one of our managements in Elizabeth Bay. Rent reviews, we're doing a market rent review for a client for their asset in Alexandria, a lovely terrace home. They wanted to know where they stood with regards to their current tenant's rent and what they potentially could get in the open market. Each property has its own challenges. Apples aren't always apples, and oranges can sometimes look a bit more like tangerines, but that's what experience does. That's what good property management does. They understand the context and the nuance, and there is an overlay of experience. Daily task breakdown could be tenant selection, tenancy applications, lease negotiations and renewals, coordination of maintenance. There's liaising with clients, lease administration, lease expiries, lease renewals, lease breaches. There's obviously arrears and financials. There's reporting, a lot of reporting. Clients need information. Information's really important. Monitoring, communication. Probably upwards of 90% of effective time in property management is about communication. Whether you're hearing someone's complaints, whether you're hearing someone's requests, whether you're needing to comply with someone's demands, there's a lot. And most conflicts we find arise because of miscommunication. You can't communicate too much, and that takes time. And with a lot of the technologies available to people, it's hard. It's just not one channel. You just can't speak to someone. Some people don't want to speak. They want to text, or they want to WhatsApp, or they want to talk to you through Messenger or email. So it's just a constant funnel of communication. That's really, really a lot of what we do. Not putting it bluntly. And of course, we've got, there's legal compliance. Clients have to be aware. I just recently got off the phone with a client and we were discussing their preferences, but also their legal obligations with relation to an ongoing building matter. And that we wanted to avoid that by being proactive, which came back to our maintenance plan that we've been working on with them for the past year, and that's kind of having to be brought forward. There's market analysis, and of course there is the emergency responding, the 2 a.m. phone call of, I don't have any power, send someone to fix it. Or someone's using my electricity. That was another one yesterday. So look, it's probably the hardest stuff out of this is the out of hours one, because we're all people, but we obviously have a duty and a responsibility to both customer and client. That said, common sense is paramount in this job, and over communication, can't emphasize that enough. And of course, all this comes with the responsibility of landlord and tenant in residential terms for the Residential Tenancies Act. You got to know the rules. You got to play by the rules. And sometimes when people don't, you have to reconcile what that means.